Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Gathered Up, the show that runs parallel with the Great British Sewing Bee, and it picks up on any techniques or skills that came up in the programme, and we then go into detail a little bit more about those skills and techniques because we've got more time. We can talk for as long as we like, somewhere around 30 minutes to an hour, though I think sometimes we have gone over that. But as always, you know we can do that detail because we have Master Tailor Couturier here with us. As always, good evening to you, Carol. Hello.
Hello, Stuart. Is it any warmer up there than it is down here in London?
No, I'm in
Oh,
a jumper still. It's
oh
though I am
no.
in shorts, but I'm still in a
Oh.
jumper. Nearly had the heating on yesterday. It was
Oh.
terrible.
We're all waiting for summer, y'all.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed soon. So there we are. We're in week 4, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle week. And quilting came back. So I was in the element, which means, Carol, you get a week off.
Oh, it's your turn to do the demo, is it? Let's have a look.
Absolutely. So I hope you've enjoyed not having to prepare anything. Though I know you showed me all those sacks of demos you've got over the years. How many have you got?
Oh, well, I saved everything, and I just kept stuffing all the demos into a bag, and it's impressive. I have to
Yeah,
say, I'm looking at this
absolutely.
thinking, wow, how did we
Um,
do all that? But hopefully, it's been helpful for people, and it's nice to hear everyone's comments as always. And
weren't
yeah,
there loads and loads of wonderful comments really sort of talking and analyzing about the techniques or skills, but in general as well, lovely comments from people still finding the show for the first time, going, wow, what a format, I'm loving this format. I'm
yeah.
thrilled. It really makes me feel just chuffed to bits because there's all these people learning together with us, Carol.
That's right. Conversation is increasing, and obviously introducing it to new people. And I just love when people say, I've been sewing for 40, 50, 60 years, and I'm still learning,
Yeah.
as I am, as we all are,
Yeah.
you know?
The teacher in me never leaves, even though I left teaching in 2016, still learning too. And it is wonderful. And that's the beauty of YouTube. You can find the content that you like and welcome new viewers as well as welcome back those viewers that have been with us for the last 4 years, so it's great.
For
So
years
let's
now.
kick on
Awesome.
quilting then, but before we get to there, Carol, I spy something over your corner of your shoulder. What is this?
Something I want to talk about. I hope you got the pictures I sent you. This is a vintage kimono from Japan. I brought it back with me in November.
Okay.
And the reason I'm doing something like this
Yeah.
now, I want to do my own transformation challenge, but for the last 30 some years, I've been tailoring and doing couture work in London. And for most of those years, I get involved in a charity. And on offer, it's usually a big ticket item, is the opportunity to have a couture piece made by me.
Oh, wow.
And so this year in August, it'll be the 20th year that I've given
You,
this opportunity.
oh, wow.
And this year, it's the charity is motor neuron disease, and it's going to be in August. And I'm invited to be at table, and I'm going to be interviewed by the auctioneer. So I thought I'd pay homage to Japan, and I have many kimonos. And the last book I got as a gift was this
Oh, that's a
Kimono
spectacular cover.
to Catwalk. Isn't it wonderful? It's a really lovely book. And I thought, now's the time. And I think if I'm, going to be at top table, I should do something that really matters, to me instead of just making a cocktail dress. So I'm going to transform this kimono. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll be talking about it through most of the rest of this series.
Yeah.
How about that?
Shall we? So those pictures you sent me, shall we go to those? That's the
Let's
close
do
up of
that.
that, yeah.
Yes, yes. So
Look,
this is the kimono, and it's a meter and a half tall. There's a lot of fabric. You can almost see through this. So what I'm going
abs-
to do is make a knee length dress and then make a little slip dress to go underneath. So the fabric is thin, it's fluid, it's going to drape really
I
well.
can see it at the bottom there. Yeah, is I don't know whether my
It's
computer.
really pretty, and it almost has like a slightly taffeta-y weave in it. It just
Yeah,
catches the light, and you can see some waves in it. It's so a bit iridescent. So I think it'll make up well, but I just have to come up with a silhouette.
yeah,
Um,
and I
yeah,
think let's go to a close up. Where's that other picture you gave me? That one, and
I
then
think one of the sleeves, so you can
yeah.
see how.
Oh, let's get rid of my
Now,
mark. Look at
there you go.
that.
You can almost see through it, Stuart. Um, but I thought this parallels with quilting because it's about geometry and it's about straight lines, and a
Yeah.
kimono is made up of rectangles,
Look at that
basically.
beautiful straight line there. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there.
isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's very clean. It's a flat garment when you take it off the mannequin. Everything folds flat, and you put it in these lovely Japanese paper envelopes. I think we talked about them a while ago.
We did. You got
I
one
have
out.
my
I remember
kimono
looking through
collection.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the
And so
drawings, are these from the book, these
so
pictures?
this is from a different book. This is from a book about kimono. So you can see on the picture on your left is
Yeah.
the different parts of the kimono and what they're
Oh,
called in Japanese language. And can you see how it's a very flat construction,
absolutely.
very
Yeah.
rectangular.
Yeah.
But then when you put it on, you can see then it becomes in that second picture how it molds to the body and becomes more fluid. Uh, so that's the idea. I thought that would be interesting to talk about it if we're talking about the geometry of what it is that you do with your quilting.
Absolutely. Uh, I'm a big fan of straight line quilting. I know quilting, you can go off and you can go swirly, but you've got
Yeah.
to remember um, most people at home have their little domestic machine. And I know we've talked
Yeah.
about this before, and because I'm doing the demo, I've got a camera set up. So let's see if this works.
What?
Where are we?
Okay.
Here we go. Right. So let's just see if I can move my camera a bit. So there, look. Right. So here's my little domestic machine. And this is the important bit here that we often talk about. Can I do that here? This is the throat space. So
Mhm.
actually, some machines don't give you much throat space. So imagine quilting a full-size quilt and having to deal with
Oh,
that
yeah.
space. It's going to be really hard. So when I do little quilts, which I do like doing, say crib quilts. I'm going to have to do a crib quilt for my great nephew who was born in January, aren't I? But
Oh, how lovely.
when I used to have fabric at the shop, I would do little samples of quilting because we had patchwork in the shop. Hence why we called the wool patch, because we were half wool and half patchwork. But sadly, COVID and everything put an end to
Oh,
fabric, so we're just wool. But I still do
oh
my
well.
sewing though, so I don't worry about that. I still do my sewing.
Of course.
But when you're doing little crib quilts, that's actually quite manageable. Let's go back. Because here's just a little sample I've made here over the years. Now that can fit in the throat space quite easily.
Oh,
Now
yes. Yeah.
I haven't got my table set up, but if I wanted to, I could take this out and I could put my big table in, and the table would probably go out to here. So when you're quilting, you don't get that
Yeah.
hideous problem, which can affect
Yeah.
your quilting and affect your tension of the on the needle.
That's right.
But when you're doing something small like this, when you're going across and across and across, now can you see that how important that throat space is? So imagine trying to do a full size quilt. Even on there, you're going to be doing a lot of rolling. So
Yeah.
really, you can only do straight line quilting, but it's manageable on your domestic machine. And I'm a big fan of straight line. I like doing straight lines where you let's come round. you might have a few close together called matchstick quilting, but I quite like doing it irregular. So then I'll skip a bit and then have a line, skip a bit, have a line, then have a couple of close together. Like this one here, you've got 3 quilting lines together. And then make that a feature of it, and then just keep going and going and going. So straight line quilting from that point of view is easy on your domestic machine. But can you remember we were talking about long arm, and we've got a special interview coming up later, haven't we?
Indeed we do.
And
yes, looking forward to that.
And we talked about that with Louisa, our special guest, and Carol explained a little bit more later on. So I thought we would just quickly chat about that, because I've got a picture somewhere. Now, where is that? Just to make it easier.
While you're looking for that picture, Stuart, I had a question. When you do your matchsticks,
Yeah.
are you using your presser foot as the guide? Or do you have to chalk in when you're doing stitches parallel close together? Do you use your presser foot as a guide?
Always, yeah. Now, I've got a... let's go back to that, because I can do you a close-up, hopefully. I bring my camera down. I'm lucky because my machine, I can move my needle to the left or to the right, and that's a really. Can you see how the lines are changing on the grid there?
Yep, absolutely. Yes.
Where the stitch line is going to be in my presser foot, and I'm using that all the time on my straight line quilting. So if I come down to here. So if I've done a line there, I might then put my edge of my presser foot there. If I put that down.
Yes. Yep.
So you can see.
So
my
you're at a
presser
quarter of
foot
an
is
inch.
going to follow the old stitch line, but I can now play around with my needle placement. It doesn't have to be in the middle there. I can move it left a bit more so it goes down that aisle, or I can move it right a bit more and go down that aisle.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Nice. Okay. Yeah, because a quarter of an inch is a little bit too close together, really. And it can be risky.
Yes.
You're trying to sew 3 layers together. And the one in the middle is batting. It's a bit puffier. So but I can see that. That's very helpful.
And I've seen people do matchstick quilting less than quarter of an inch. They are really getting, but that's partly because they want the texture. They want all that sewing thread to be seen, and not necessarily their main patchwork. Do you see? I think we've had this debate before, haven't we? How much do you want to see your quilting, or how much do you want to see your
top stitch?
Absolutely, yes. Or even your patch, where are we? No, your patchwork. So here, I've got, this was just a simple sample. This was XX, X, and an O. So there's not much there to go with. So I thought, well, my straight lines, that won't fight for it. But on this big quilt over here, and I might have to go back to this one, this was my first attempt at a full-blown quilt. It's huge.
Oh, how nice. Oh, that's jolly. Wow.
Now with this one,
so many triangular pieces.
Yeah, lots of triangles, and the patchwork has to sing. So when I sent this off to the long armour, because there is no way I was quilting that on that little machine. How would you do? You know, that's over 2 meters.
Yeah.
But can you just see the long armour has chosen a really simple wave?
Yeah. Yes, it doesn't fight the because when all those triangles are get together, you do get some curves in it, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely.
And the back, you'll see the quilting.
There it is. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. Oh, just a nice gentle wave-like pattern.
Because you want your patchwork to show and to sing, not your quilting. But people who often do the matchstick quilting with lots of lines together, they want that texture of the thread and what it will do with all those bumps, because obviously it won't be a soft and supple quilt, will it? Because it'll have all that thread on it. So it is something to think about. But we were talking about long armour, and some people are thinking, what on earth is a long armour? Let me find this picture for you. I'll just slap it into our slide.
Because if you have so many parallel lines, it's going to be quite rigid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, look.
So there we are. And you see how big it is now? So imagine me. Here's my head here, and I've got my hands on this machine, and I'm standing up. It's like a table, and there's the actual sewing machine, and then the needle is here, and you drive it around. So you could do big swirls, and you could do little swirls, and you could do tons of amazing things there. But what you can also do is you can tell the computer to start at the top left-hand side, and it will just do a repeat design. So it might do the wave thing, and it will just go across, and then go back, go across, and go back, across. You can program it in different ways, but it can just, in essence, let's get rid of that. It can do a design and just repeat, and you can kind of almost press go, and it will do the motif and then repeat the motif, move a little bit over, repeat the motif. Do you see?
No, I do. It's fascinating. Now, do you have to put certain, say, stops in it? Do you have to set the quilt up so that you have, I don't like you would like pad stitch something together that you didn't want to move around? Do you have to prepare it in any way? Put little stops in it?
In theory, if you're telling it to do I forget the posh word for it now, but I call it a motif. So say you were doing a daisy motif like this, it's done in a way where it would then know how to get to the next daisy and repeat it. So it doesn't need to stop. It's very clever, and it would just do that and move on to the next one. And it will just gradually keep repeating this motif without stopping until you, as a human, will then need to, let's go back to that picture again.
I suppose that those big rollers keep everything intact.
Absolutely. So
so
it would do all that from left to right, and then when it's there, you would then roller it down so it can then do that left bit to right, and then you'd pull it down until you gradually have done your whole quilt.
See, and when you set it up on that machine, are you stretching it just a little bit?
Yes. Yeah. So it's taut, so then the needle can go up and in. It's phenomenal.
Where's the bobbin thread?
Well, I presume it's all cleverly done.
Underneath? No.
It's cleverly done through that, going up and down very, very quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating.
It's phenomenal technology because it's basically a computer. Oh, where are we? We're here. It's a computer which you can set and go, but you still have to move it down. Or you can be the designer and do whatever you like. You could do long swooping quilting, or you could do small quilting. You could do feathers, those lovely sort of, well, it's just like me drawing here. You can just go up and then down, and then up and then down, then up and then down. It's like, can you remember doodling and taking the dog for a walk?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
It's like that. But long armours, as we call them, are talented, skillful, expertise people at their craft, which is why I knew if I've done all that work on doing the top, as we call it, there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there was 8 blocks across by 12 blocks down or something, and each block, if you see it, that is a block. That's a block there.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what we call a
Got it.
block. That's been sewn together with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces of fabric just to make that block different colours. And then you repeat that block in so many different ways. But this block has got a few more little bits in. So
Yeah.
I've done all that patchwork. I'm not going to put that through my little domestic
No.
machine.
No. No. No.
I'm going to
That's a
send that
wonderful
off
template.
and then
Yeah.
get someone to do that. So, but some people still like quilting and they will quilt on their home machine. And some people have done single bed quilts because you cannot, it's obviously on the money you spend. There are some domestic machines that have a much bigger throat space. It depends on costs and what you're interested in. But so that's, I suppose, a quick idea of quilting and long arm quilting. So let's go into the pattern challenge because that's the technique that came up, wasn't it? Let's go to this. Where's the pattern challenge? And then let's go to, that's everyone's work, but let's have a look at that picture here. So that's what they had to make. They had to make a quilted bag. And because last year we had the quilted jacket, didn't we? Patchwork
That's
pieced
right.
jacket.
That's right. Yeah.
And let's see the actual sample that was made. This is what they showed on the sewing bee, which it's actually hard to see because they chose very, very pale colours. But the idea was to cut up. They had cut up lots of strips of fabric into little confetti bits. So they had to cut them all up into tiny pieces. And then basically put them in an organza layer on top and an organza layer on the bottom with all the scraps in the middle and then quilt it to kind of basically make a fabric out of scraps.
Yeah. With white organza, something I found out, it really does shade everything down, 2 or 3 tones. So you have to choose a very bright color, if it's going to speak. Because the white does that. It erases a lot of the hue.
Well, we can see that from their sample, really, can't you? It's really dampened that down. And then they had to quilt it. They had to have 3 centimetre square grid. Now, this one is obviously a nice discreet one, but again, for the sample, you would have thought they would have chosen a brighter quilting thread, so at least we could have seen it. But there we go. So they had to do and that's what I thought we would focus on today for this chat, because how do you get that grid line on to your fabric? So you as a tailor, if you were going, I'm going to have to draw a 3 centimetre grid, what would you use from your point of view, Carol?
Yeah, I would probably hand chalk a line. The one thing I don't ever use are those erase pencils, that when you iron, they disappear. I always use chalk. So I have white, gold, I have red, blue, black, and you can brush it away. So I probably would make some faint lines, maybe even in pencil if I was going to sew right over them with a darker thread. And I would probably use, the old Pattern Master.
Oh,
that's very
that
good at setting up perpendicular and parallel lines. If I was quilting on a diagonal, there's a 45, there's a 30, 60. So that's probably how I would do it. I would probably choose the center of my piece. You can do that because the bag is quite small. So I probably choose the center of it and say, right, that's going to be the first quilting line. And then I would just go on either side of that parallel so that, it had that balanced look about it.
Yep. And that's exactly what I did. So I thought I'll have a go at making it. So you ready to see? I haven't made the whole bag, but I had some organza bags at work, and I thought, well, I haven't got to sew all the way around. I've got my opening already. I just stuff it in. So let's go back to the camera, which is here. Oh no, not there. We've had that, haven't we? We're here. Right. Let's move this. And let's move my microphone. So there we are. So this was my organza bag that I had. But basically, they had two layers of organza. And they then had to... If I get... Where's the other sample? Got a sample. Oh, here we are. This is one I was playing around with. So they had their 2 layers of fabric of organza, and they basically had to make sew the 3 sides and then stuff their bag full of confetti. And it was confetti. They were told to cut it all up. So they had their rotary cutter and they were going and they were cutting up, which I have to say at the shop took me longer than I thought. I think that was about half an hour just slicing the fabrics up.
Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah, this is complex, this challenge.
So they were having all the scraps. So imagine this was these small scraps and then having to put them in. This is basically making the fabric, and this was going to be then quilted into place so they could actually use it as a fabric. Kudos to the sewers. It was difficult because, as you all know, if you've got a printed fabric, there's the right side, and then you're going to have that. And I think Susie came across this because she loved that tape measure fabric, and she realised as soon as she cut it up into little pieces, then the wrong sides were showing through. Right, and that's what's happened to me with my little pieces. Look, the wrong sides are showing through. Yeah. And she spent ages having to put her hand in and then turn it round. Yeah, which is really difficult. So I think the ones that had solid fabrics are kind of the same right side and wrong side. So that went in other sewers' favour. But you then had to try and smooth it out to make a fabric, which is really hard because when you've got all these clumps, you don't want little gaps showing through. So I spent then a long while putting my hand in, trying to get everything right.
And getting the fabric confetti into each corner.
Absolutely,
you don't have those spaces.
And then also making it look pretty. Now, I just hold these in. That's annoying. That one is just like a Belisha beacon there. But some of the sewers... I like the stripy bit. Some of the sewers did really well, didn't they? With getting, like, here's a bit of blue, here's a bit of cream here, and we'll look at the sewers and what they did later on. But we're talking about then the quilting. So I did exactly that. I got these. If you want a good ruler to work in patchwork, Creative Grids is the company. I also have an Alpha ruler too, but Creative Grids are the best ones. They're a British company, but these are the proper patchwork rulers to use that you can then have with your rotary cutter too. So I then did, as you said, Carol, I got the middle of my actually 20 centimetre bag, so my middle line was 10. And I just sewn my main grid on. But as you can see, I am now up to the point. So I've done my vertical lines and I'm now coming to do my horizontal lines. And this is where I thought we would talk about how do we get our grid lines there. Now, you said you use tailor's chalk. This is some what we used to sell here in the shop, classic white tailor's chalk. You say you've got different colours, yeah?
I do all sorts of colors. I don't know if I have them to hand. I do.
Oh, cool.
So
I'm going to open this because I'm going to have this for myself.
Yeah. And I also have, where is it? Where are you?
Where are you?
Oh, there it is. Hang on. I got it.
That's all right. Oh, what's that gone on? Something's fallen on the floor.
My shop is such a mess because there's just people coming and going, and it's wedding season, and there's brides everywhere.
Although it's not weather wedding season. No. I'm looking out my window now. I know. It's raining outside again.
Oh, it's such a drag. Look at this. Isn't this pretty? Look.
Oh, look. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, really handy.
And then of course the white. And then I have this this chalk sharpener that I use. So you just put the chalk there, and there's
Oh, I
these little
love that.
razor
Oh,
blades, and then you just, and you must have a very sharp chalk because you don't want a thick line.
no.
So it's pretty.
Oh yeah, that's like mine. Let's go to, well, mine's brand new, so it is going to be sharp. Look at that.
Oh,
Right.
right, yeah.
So everything in patchwork is in inches, everyone. Because it's mostly it's a huge American craft, so we've kept in imperial, so you get used to that. Though I think most of the sewing world is in centimeters now, isn't it? Or are you
I
still in
think it is.
imperial?
I have to fight it because
Yeah.
I have to learn both now.
So let's show you 3 centimeter grid, which I've already worked out was 1.25 inches. So I'm on my sewing line that I've already made, and I've got these lovely clear rulers, and with all these lines on, and this is what I love about it. So I can then so I can see my line, my sewing line there. So I'm just going to put my 1.25 inch line, which is this one here, on top of that sewing line. And that's what I love about these patchwork rulers. That's now completely lined up on the 1.25 inch line. See that? Yep.
Yep.
And I'll use your tailor's chalk. Look,
There it is.
there.
Yep.
Now,
Nice one.
tailor's chalk, or yes, these fabric pens, which are becoming more and more popular. They are heat erasable fabric pens. They are great. I use them all the time, just because I've got them here. There is a warning though, everyone. Don't use them on your best work that you are probably going to show in a competition or something, because when it goes cold, it has been known to come back again.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So even though the heat gets rid of it, and it does, it completely disappears. I haven't got an iron set up here. I can't really show you, but if I draw the line on there, so again, there's my new line. I'm going to put my quilting ruler over the top. Can you see that? That's why I love these rulers. There. That's completely lined up. And now... You see? Can you see that faint blue line? Sometimes you've got to go a bit hard with it. I have used this a lot, so it might be on its way out. Let's try again. Remember, this is on organza as well, so it might just perhaps do a little bit and then eyeball the rest. Yeah. That could be a tip. Oh, there you go. There
you go. Yeah.
Can you see that?
Nice. Okay.
And in theory, that will disappear. I'll try breathing on it. My favourite tool, however, is where you don't use any product at all other than, and you might know about this tool. Oh, I think that's what's fallen on the floor. Oh, yeah. Oh, where's that gone? Hang on.
Stuart's rummaging.
Hang on, everyone. It's all on the floor. Oh.
Yeah, those eraser pens, they scare me. I just wouldn't want to risk it, especially if I'm chalking a dart or something.
Absolutely.
Or Georgette or organza or something.
I don't see it often, but it can come back. I've heard of people going on a quilt show and they take all their quilts and they package them up and it's gone, say, into the deck of the aeroplane, in the cargo. And when they've come out, because it's so cold in there, all their blue lines have appeared. And it's like, what? So they've got to get the iron out again. Yeah. This is from a company called Clover, which is really big in the patchwork world. They're a Japanese company, and it's called a Hera Marker, Hera. I don't know whether I say that right. Let's do that. A Hera Marker. Do you think I'm saying that right? I don't think
I
it's
can ask
Hera.
the expert in the next room.
Oh, okay. Ask Mike. But I
Oh, it's
love it because it's just it. I expect in its original day it might have been, dare I say it, bone, but this is just plastic. But it's firm. I can't bend that at all. But can you see this lovely edge?
sharp edge.
It's
Yeah.
blunt, but it's a beautiful scoring tool. You score the fabric, and I love it. So I'm going to show you with some solid. I use it all the time. And you get your ruler, and then look at that.
How about that?
Can you see that?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Sometimes I'll do that with my fingernail
Oh,
or a pin.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's less damaging.
And you don't have to go up and down like a yo-yo like I did. You can just go
Yeah.
once and it's there.
Yes.
And
Oh,
the
look at
beauty
that.
of the Hera marker is that it stays there. So if you come back to your
Yeah.
quilting in 3 days' time, you know it's going to be there. It won't. Oh, I don't know if it. I'm sure your chalk is probably not brushed off. It will stay there until you brush it off, won't it? And then when you wash it and iron it, obviously then it's completely gone. So let's do a couple of lines of Hera marker on here, and then I think we've just got to sew.
Okay.
So let's just turn that round, an inch and a quarter. And then we'll see how this works on the organza. It may not be, I might have to.
So you have to really keep your template steady. Oh, look at it's done it.
Look at that.
Wow, that's really good. That's successful.
So we've got our
Okay.
Hera marker, and we've got our chalk, and we've got our fabric
Erasable.
eraser. I wonder if it goes off of my breath. No. Then let's come to the sewing machine. Not that you need to see it, but let's just try a little. So we're going to try. There you go. So that's our scoring mark. So you would then just
Really
set your.
visible.
Yeah, and that's. And now I just need to follow my Hera marker scored line.
Yeah. You're using the inside of your presser foot, one side of it. You're following along the inside of that leg.
No, it's just me. I didn't reset the needle. Normally I have the needle at that middle red mark, but I was playing around with it, wasn't I? And look, it's still.
It doesn't matter.
It's still.
just,
It's on the to the right, but.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking at the needle anyway, because technically when you're quilting, you don't want to ever be looking at the needle. You want to be looking at your edge of your presser foot or your line that you're following. That's what you do, don't you?
That's right. Well, whatever you're using as a reference.
Yeah.
If you got that beautiful scored line, then you know where the needle is in relation to the, your presser foot, don't you? So it's just.
So I'm there, but most people, and more often than not, I will. So let's get this back to there and stop that. Most patchwork people will use the edge of their presser foot. If like doing a new line, they would do that. But we've got our score mark, so it doesn't matter. So I'll just reset my needle to the middle. Can you see that move?
Yep.
And then just carry on again. So put it in there. There, and carry on.
You're on your way.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this into that red line. So I'm not looking at the needle at all. I'm looking at that red line, which you probably can't see because the thread.
Oh, right. Okay.
It depends on your presser foot. Can you see the red line?
And I see what you mean by not watching your needle. You're watching the red marker.
Yeah,
In the
and getting it on my scored line. And then off I go. And obviously with quilting, you're on a larger thread too. You don't want to be on a close thread because you want your quilting, hopefully, to see. So I've elongated the stitches here.
Yeah.
So I'm on a stitch length of 3 mil.
Yeah.
And the only other thing to talk about is one of the sewers, she had the great idea of using masking tape, which you can do. You can actually buy quilter's tape, which is 1/4 of an inch. So this is, what's this?
That sounds handy.
It's really handy. This is an inch, but you can actually buy quilter's tape that is only 1/4 of an inch. It's wonderful. But yes, you could just then get your marker and then stick your tape down. And that's what I think she did, didn't she? I think it was Pasha. She just stuck it down, and then she would have followed the needle to the edge there. And I did spy someone who had a walking foot, and they were using the guide. So the walking foot, now mine's got a walking foot built in, because it's I'm lucky, I've got a snazzy one. Can you see the walking foot there?
I can. Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Let's engage that. There you go. So that is the walking foot. That black one has got the feet underneath. But the old-fashioned walking feet that you had has a guide on it, and it comes out sort of like that. Yeah. And then you would just measure that to wherever it is. So if you're going this way, so there's we need 3 centimeters that way. So wherever your guide is, you would what was it? You'd be like like that.
About there, yeah.
Is that right? Oh yes, the guide's there. Yeah. Whichever way. I'm forgot now. Oh no, yeah, there. That's right. Yes. So there, I was getting my head round that. So there's your line. Your guide is then there. So you end up looking at the guide, and that sometimes throws people because you want to look at this, but you need to keep the guide going down that line, don't you? If you get me.
Yeah. So all of these things are extra steps that you have to cope with. So the masking tape is an extra step, and then you have to take it off.
Yeah.
And you risk that not being perfectly straight. So I would say that a good template that you can put your finger down on and really, get it steady, and then a chalk or a pencil, or I think your score is fantastic. I might try that.
It is the best. I think the best thing, because you don't ever, with obviously tailor's chalk, you have got to keep sharpening it and everything, but the Hera marker, and you've normally patchworkers have got a flat surface, and I noticed the sewers had a table. They were given tables for their sewing machines. So whereas me, you saw me battling with it, and it would have fallen down, but the sewers, they gave them proper tables, so they were able to quilt and enjoy the quilting, and were really successful. So should we have a look at their finished makes, Carol?
Sure, yes, absolutely. Let's do that.
Where is it? Pattern challenge. And let's just take that off. And then there they all are. All 9 of them.
And they're all completely different.
Yeah.
Everybody had a different approach. Some people had better luck with the corners than not. That was one thing I was very impressed with Don, because he seemed to be really on top of that. He had the shape really nice. And the one thing I noticed when he was pressing out his organza, he really handled it well.
Didn't he?
And,
yeah.
So in that, he really impressed me. I was sorry to see him go, but I think this competition, he's much better than the competition allowed him to be. And I think that's what I noticed is happening. People are better, but it's because of the pressure, and there's a complicated tasks, and it's the time that they're given to do is pretty unreasonable, I'd have to say.
Yeah, they haven't had enough chance to really show off their skills, and I know we've talked about the time issue time and time again. No pun there. it would be nice just to give them a bit more time so we can see all their skills and then show them off and enjoy looking at some finished makes. But you look at them there. This is what we were saying. Alex did really well. Marcus with the design where they were moving around, their hand inside this pocket to move these pieces. So she's got the white pieces there, then the blue pieces, then the white pieces. That would have been quite fiddly to do.
Yeah, yeah. And then those, the hearts, which that makes it look like it's not really confetti. It looks like just a new piece of fabric that's been quilted,
amazing.
doesn't it? I like Luke's up at the top. I think that's a riot.
I think the classic confetti look, almost like mine too, isn't it? Just put them all in and then moving them around, it's just it really. But the quilting, can we see most of them went for kind of disguised quilting with white thread. Not many went for coloured. I think Georgie there, she was brave and went for either a navy blue or a black quilting thread.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe the white organza, steered them in that direction.
Yes,
perhaps.
Yeah. And I suppose, as we said, do you want your fabric to show and to sing, or do you want your quilting to sing? And I think on this case, you actually want your confetti bits, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and, definitely.
Especially with this one, you won't the discrete white straight lines actually do sort of disappear, and then the hearts therefore stand out, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
So
to quite a different effect.
But that's like with tailoring. There are many things to think about when you're doing your patchwork. You've made your top, and that's why a lot of quilters never actually end up quilting, because they love the top piecing together, but it's a whole new set of skills coming to quilting.
Oh, yeah.
Which thread do you use? Which colour do you use? What design do you use? And then it's like, so there are a lot of, you'll have to let us know in the comments, people, if you're a patchworker, if you're a topper only and you've got a whole cupboard full of tops because you haven't quilted them, because it's a whole different thing.
Well, I think if it's anything like tailoring, that the further you get along with the job, the riskier it becomes. And so if you've done a really beautiful job on your topper, as you call it, then do you really want to then just take that chance if you haven't got the right equipment? Do you really want to risk
Absolutely.
Affecting the job? So I can see where and the fact that they can stretch it out, make it taut, and then the rollers keep everything even.
Yeah. Because you don't want those, so many times, even with a walking foot, you don't want those when you're coming down to the bottom, because the way the quilting's gone, sometimes you end up getting these tsunamis at the bottom, and it messes up your straight line, your junctions of 4 patches, and you end up ruining that junction with a pucker like that. It's nothing.
That's what Esme would call a wibbly wobbly. But in fact, what it is the top layer is being forced over the bottom layer. So you're getting tiny little pleats. And one more question: if you're going to quilt yourself, would you quilt in one direction, or would you come down one way, turn your work, go back the other way, so that you're going like this?
Yeah. So ideally, let's come to this. This is a difficult thing, because they had already sewn around. Let's go back out. Let's go to this angle here. It was harder for them because they'd already sewn that. They'd put their pieces in and then sewn across the top. So when you come to quilt it, there is nowhere for excess fabric to go, is there? But usually when we're quilting, we have our top piece of fabric, we have our bottom piece of fabric, imagine that's our bottom, and our wadding in the middle, Yeah. So say that's our quilt. We've got the fabric can go out easily like that from the middle to outside, or middle to outside. So you can always smooth it out. So quilting, ideally, you start from the middle Okay.
Yep.
So let's do this with our Hera marker. Start from the middle and we'll quilt that way. And if I'm doing my
Yes.
straight
Yeah. Okay.
lines, I will come down and do that line. And
Yep.
ideally, you can do it and move it and do it, and you keep pushing it out so you're not going to get any puckers and you're going to work your way out. Some people do work from the middle, go down, then turn it round,
Yep.
and then go down and
Yes.
turn it
Yes.
round and then down. But yes,
Yep.
you're moving from the middle out, so there's no chance, because if you sew here and quilt there and then quilt across the bottom, when you come down, you're then going to get
Yes. Yes.
that
Exactly.
classic pucker
Yeah.
there, aren't you? Because
Yeah.
unless you've
Is
got a
that?
very good walking foot, but
Yeah.
you probably would end up with something like that. So yeah, work from the middle out, turn, go the other side, middle out.
Yeah. We do that in tailoring when we're setting a canvas onto the main fabric. Because a tailored garment, especially in the chest canvas of a man's piece, has 3 or 4 layers. And so you have to set them together. And you set them together with padding stitches or basting stitches. And you do exactly that. You sew, you baste across the waist, and then you go from the waist down, and then you go from the waist up, but always, you're always smoothing everything out. So that's a good point you just made about having a fixed envelope of fabric and having to quilt that with
Yeah.
nowhere to send the ease.
And I think that goes to show the skill of the sewers, actually, because I didn't see any puckers, I didn't see any bits where it was rolled over. So well done on
Well
all the
done.
sewers. Now let's talk about our special guest. We have got a interview coming up now, haven't we?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. This is Louisa Terenzi, and she is a relative of mine. She lives in Michigan. Um, I'm from Michigan, and I left for London in 1988, the year that she got married. And she's got 3 sons and some grandchildren, and she's a crafter. And you're going to love this interview with her.
It was wonderful doing it together, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
A lot of
lovely
fun.
connecting with someone that is getting into it like we all are, and talking sewing and obviously seeing what she made. If you're a Kafffe Fassett fan, keep watching because Louisa's quilt is amazing. Now, this interview we have condensed down to 9 minutes because we normally do an hour show, so that will take us up to the hour, and then we'll finish the show. If you want to see it in its full entirety, because we've cut through well, I think we talked for about half an hour, didn't we?
And we get into quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. The link is in the description. It's on YouTube. It's called All Gathered Up Conversation. We might do some more conversations too. See how it goes. It depends on what topics come up. But yes, you can see the full conversation in the other video in the link below. But for this moment, enjoy this 9 minutes of further quilty chat. Hello.
Oh,
Oh, this is
hello.
exciting.
Hello.
We're furthering the conversation of sewing into patchwork and quilting. Carol, just give us an introduction, please.
Well, I'll start by saying I've never made a quilt, but I'd love to. And I wanted to have a chat with Louisa here. And Louisa and I are related by a family marriage. And I grew up in Michigan. Louisa still lives in Michigan. First of all, Louisa, I'm curious, where did you learn your skills? I mean, grandmother taught mom and then taught me, and that's how it was. But how did you acquire your skills?
When I was younger, it was really self-taught per se with needle and thread, and
Mhm.
I had to think back, when did I start sewing? And it was kind of self-taught with the sewing machine. My mom had a sewing machine,
Mm.
but she wasn't really a
Mhm.
sewer.
Mm.
But she did come to this country with a lot of fabric. That was something that I knew I had access to. that to ironically at that Christmas I'd asked for quilting supplies. So my family started send got me some fabrics and some just fun
Yeah.
fabrics. And then they gave me a Kafffe Fassett book of quilts. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, these
Oh,
are beautiful.
yeah.
The fabrics were, I don't know if you know, Stuart, if you recall,
Yeah,
so
he's big over
sure
here, and I know many people struggle with
it,
his saying his name. We say Kafffe Fassett,
Kafffe
and
Fassett, thank you.
he is an
I am probably,
artist.
yeah, I
He is a
apologize
wonder
for
with
the,
color.
but yeah, so from there, you got the kit, you bought a kit,
Okay,
and
so
the
so
kit
you
would
bought the
have,
kit, and the fabric was
yes,
pre-cut, or did it come as yardage, and you had to cut the fabric?
they send you yardage,
Yeah,
anything from a quarter yard to 2/3 of a yard, depending on which ones they would suggest for the larger blooms. So I think as a a
Mm.
lover of fabric design and fabrics, and I think anyone else could say this too, that's the most difficult part is what we call fussy cutting the flowers out of the
yeah.
fabric. And Stuart, you probably know that term
I do.
as a
Yes,
quilter.
it's where you've got your
Oh,
half a meter of fabric or half a yard, and how
yes.
much do you go for that bit and cut that bit out, or do you go for that bit and cut that bit out?
Mhm.
So in fact, I have a sample of like what a piece would look like after you fussy cut it, and it looks like
Okay, that
this,
looks
right?
familiar.
Wow.
So here we
Yes,
are,
that's all your
and what
leftovers. Bigger bits of fabric there, but here I
I
can see. Have you then fussy cut that down to 10-inch squares, or what's going on there?
had. So those are 8 inch, and then
Mm.
8 inch squares.
Okay.
And then with that, the smaller, it's a border of smaller squares, and those are four
Mhm.
and a quarter.
Oh,
So
lovely.
that's why you can work with a number of different parts of this fabric for those smaller squares and for the larger. But they recommend going for your
Mm.
larger squares first, so
Yeah.
you have your bigger blooms.
Mm.
You've put them up on the wall, which is lovely because you can get a good feel about that. How have you done that? How
Right.
have you made that wall?
So they recommend, I mean, of course, everyone has their different versions of this, but there is a thin type, almost styrofoam type material that you can purchase at the local hardware store here in the States. And I ended up doing one where you could fold in half so I could fit it into my craft room, the room that we're in today. um, and then just look at this wall as I'm creating the squares at my desk. This way I can just pin them up. I've covered it with a felt. I took a gray felt and
Ah,
just covered it.
Oh, I
okay.
see.
And the
Okay.
fabric
Yeah.
can literally just stay on there without even pinning it. So it's really a
Right.
great visual to
Oh, so
bring
you
the
can
colors
stick it,
together.
you stick it right on the felt and
Right
it
on
just
the
it
felt.
adheres. Oh,
Right
that's
on the
clever.
felt, it
It's
does. Yeah. So that was a great idea because
absolutely.
otherwise you're left with, I mean, I know everyone has their different techniques. Some have laid them on the floor or whatever, but this to
Mhm.
me was a great way to
Mm.
visually see the blooms. How many have I incorporated? What colors do I need next?
When you had them in your, what you thought, Louisa, was the finished order, I bet you
Right.
left for a day, came back in and went, oh, that orange one's a bit, and then just randomly moved one, didn't you?
So many times.
Yeah.
More times than I'd like to remember, but yes, they would all be laid out, and you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I had extra squares, of course, so
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this needed a little bit more of this color in it, and that was the fun part. Obviously, you just
Oh, obviously, yeah.
See,
Because there's
look
as
at that.
endless combinations,
Indeed.
endless
that
combinations.
yeah.
Louisa, tell us how you came to then sew all those squares together, because I know there are many different ways of doing that. Did you have a particular method, and what method was that?
Right. So I mean, of course, I followed, I went on YouTube and see how everyone else was doing it. So once you've laid it out and you are committed to your layout, I started across. So what they suggested doing is sewing rows across. And then with that, correct, yeah. And then I press the seams to one side, so to the right,
Yeah.
Mhm.
for instance. And then when I went to the next row, those were pressed to the left, so the seams could,
Yeah.
um,
Ah, okay.
yes, so everything could I don't, what's the word for that? There is a word for
Well,
it.
the join, the juncture is going to match
Correct.
up.
Yeah,
Very,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know
exactly.
we like calling it the junction. In the quilting world, we call it nesting our seams.
That's the word. That's the
Oh, okay.
nesting the seams. Yes.
Yeah.
And the big reveal,
Here we
everyone.
go.
So Louisa's sewn them all together, and then we're going to talk about quilting next. Look at this. That is huge.
Very
Wow.
satisfying.
So
Yeah. What
unbelievable. So now we can see the squares there. They're your 8-inch squares. And then we can see this magnificent border of 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 the 4¼ inches. Now,
Did a 4 patch, yeah. Now they recommended 4¼ to cut them, but I felt, and I don't know if this was just a happy mistake that I did, but I believe I cut them at 4½, which gave me some room to
brilliant.
trim them
Mhm.
properly so that these squares were perfectly where I wanted them to be. But
Oh, good idea.
It looks fabulous though. Oh,
But I see a different pattern on top of that, don't I?
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing some kind of a random
Yeah.
you might see the pattern even better on the back. So yeah, I don't know, maybe
oh
you
wow.
Oh, I
but,
can. Yes, it's
Wow.
floral.
and I am doing, as Carol, I may have showed her the jelly roll rug. We
That's
are
right.
Oh,
trying my
lovely.
hand at that.
Yeah.
It's
So that has been fun. It's actually right here next to me on my sewing machine as we speak. But yeah, just taking your batting and
yeah.
your fabric that you've taken and made a long
And see that gadget, Stuart, that
There's that
Louise is
gadget.
It's
feeding
so
that in.
cool.
It's like one of the bias,
Yeah.
Yeah,
bindings.
and it makes doing
then
that
you
jelly
end
roll
up
rug
with-
so much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You end up
Look
with
at that.
something
Oh,
like
you're
this.
well on your way. Look at there.
Not
You're
too bad, believe it or not. I
practically
still have-
done.
I
Right.
will put the link down in the description for anyone wanting to look at the jelly roll rug.
I'm so glad to hear you say that you're teaching your grandchildren because, and keep it in the family like that. It's one of my earliest memories and it really sent me on my way. So I'm really glad to hear that from you, Louisa.
Absolutely. And I was hoping my grandchildren would like crafting, and I told my son, I said, I've manifested this, this, right? I've wanted crafting to share my crafts with them, and they love it.
Well, thank you for sharing your craft with us. Let's take one look at this amazing quilt. The size of that. It's been wonderful. Well, you've been a huge inspiration because you went right in at the deep end with a huge kit and cut all that fabric. So that says it all, doesn't it? You don't have to. You go with what you like, and you like that fabric, and you made that kit. You didn't start off with a small crib quilt and then work your way up. And I think that's even more inspirational.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for your time.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Louisa, say hi to Michigan for me, all right?
Oh, thank you. Hello from Michigan. Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. See you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
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 Oh, Carol, how lovely was that?
What a charmer. And I'm such an inspiration. And I know that a lot of people that watch our show are going to probably run out and try to do that. I mean, how can you not want to make something that colorful and it's useful and beautiful. You have to have one in your house, don't you?
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed watching it.
You've got several.
Oh, yeah. If you want to see it in full, the link is in the description below. It's a lovely interview. It's a lovely chat between three people that love sewing and are interested in the quilting world. Because Carol, you're going to make your quilt at some point, aren't you?
At some point, but I'm going to be looking for something really weird and wonderful geometrically. That's what I want to do.
Oh, really? Oh, I've just lost you there. Where they are. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, not for long, no. Yeah, I want something really different. I don't know what it'll end up being, but yeah, I'll find a pattern, and I've got to join you all and do something.
Yes.
I really do.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we are. I hope you enjoyed it, everyone. And it's a nice little change as well to have a guest on and hearing their story. I did an okay attempt at doing the demo, but we'll be so excited to go back to you, Carol, next week with the camera looking at your sewing machine and some sewing. But I hope you enjoyed having a break.
We loved watching your demo, Stuart, and I learned a lot. So don't, just know that.
Well, there we
Okay?
are. Thank you, Carol. Well, there we and if you, where has it gone before we finish? Oh, I don't know where it's gone. No. Oh, there it is. The Hera Marker for marking your quilt, your lines out. It is a wonderful tool. So go and buy that. Buy Clover. There we are. Right, we shall see you next week. Looking forward to next week, week 5. They're celebrating India, and we have a guest judge in. And it's always good when they have a guest judge in, don't they? We get to hear that guest judge's skills and what they're looking for, and we get some really good feedback, don't we?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be colorful. We know that.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and see you next week. Cheers, all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.